Hey everybody, how you doing? It's been quite an eventful week. I will say again, hey everybody, how you doing? It's been quite an eventful week, and I think it's worth saying that a third time. Hey everybody, how you doing? It has been quite an eventful week. Aside from the headlines regarding John Gruden, and then of course outside of sports we have Gabby Petite and the sad news there, and it seems everything else going on. We have a confirmation of news that I broke here on Sunday in this video and blog right here, where I reported that Major League Baseball Las Vegas rumor may explain Mayor Shaft's long Oakland A's Coliseum claim. And that is a rather complicated kind of a video title that basically says this. First of all, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the bad news that we're talking about right now, the mayor knew about roughly 2 weeks before this date. But what happened was that Major League Baseball saw, as well, I'll let Bob Manfred explain exactly what it is that he saw regarding this matter of not having a path to Oakland, in his own words, via what was posted today on Twitter by the Sports Business Journal as part of a sports business summit that was held today, and I believe is still ongoing, as I understand it. And so here is that bit of information, hallmarked by a video featuring Major League Baseball Commissioner Bob Manfred, right here before you. There. Here's I'm going to enlarge this a little bit, or at least attempt to do so, and see if we can get, a better view of what Bob is about to say for you and I by zooming in. Yeah, it works. And we'll zoom in 3 times more. 3, 2. I think that's good enough, don't you? Yeah. Let's scroll down a little bit and let her rip.
Tampa.
2.
That's
I think that's good enough. Yeah.
There's teams.
Let's scroll down a little bit and let her rip. And let me
Tampa.
2.
That's the question.
Do that. Okay. Sorry for the double talk there, if you will. Let's have at it again, as the Squire of Gothos would say in Star Trek. All right. Let's take it from the top.
Oakland and Tampa. That's the question.
There's teams in Oakland and Tampa. Look, both Oakland and Tampa need new facilities. I mean, we it's kind of beyond debate at this point. Oakland probably critical just in terms of the condition of the ballpark. Whatever you want to say about Tampa, it's playable for right now, and they have a lease that goes through 2027. Oakland's in a critical situation. We need to find a way to get new ballparks built in those 2 cities, or, particularly in the case of Oakland, we've had to open up the opportunity to explore other locations just because it's dragged on so long. And, frankly, in some ways, we're not sure we see a path to success in terms of getting something built in Oakland.
So a relocation is
is a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they've been talking to Las Vegas. It's gotten a lot of publicity, but there are options in terms of relocation in addition to Las Vegas.
And so that's what he said Tuesday. Now, he equivocated once again, but when this is where the situation is, when he says we don't see a path forward in Oakland, that doesn't mean what the mayor claims. The mayor said they're trying to get approvals done as soon as possible. But the one gigantic aspect that has not been done is the one that the mayor and the city of Oakland have really dragged their collective feet really Oakland is ours, so I'll say our collective feet, but she's in charge in this. And it's a gigantic problem that is encapsulated by by a document that was released on the Howard Terminal City of Oakland website on the 24th of September. And that document is by a consulting firm called Century Urban. And I'm going to present it to you right here and discuss it. It's called Response to Questions for Alameda County in preparation for the October 26th meeting at the Alameda County Board of Supervisors. I'm not going to take you all through this because it will basically tax your patience. And if you're not familiar with it, it's going to probably confuse you as much as it's confused the A's. And that's the problem. And it's a gigantic one, okay? But the bottom line is that this document regarding the what the city of Oakland is going to do with respect to paying for this project is something that has not been fleshed out. This should have been done when SB 293 Skinner, and I've said this again and again and again, I'm so tired of hearing myself say it. This should have been done when SB 293 Skinner was passed October 11th, 2019. So in a lot of ways, we're really behind the eight ball just by structure. And this is the Waterfront Ballpark District, and it discusses a number of questions the county put forward. I'm going to make this really easy and simple for you to understand. I'm not going to ask you to read it. I'm going to ask you basically to believe what I'm explaining to you. The problem, folks, is very simply this. The city of Oakland has dragged its feet and not structured a bond issue. And what I mean by that is, remember the spreadsheet that I have on Oakland News Now, where you can see the tax increment revenues under different scenarios of your choice? Have you ever seen that from the city of Oakland, a spreadsheet that anybody can play online? The answer is no. In other words, the city has never shown you how much money it expects to get from tax increment financing. It doesn't even show that in the document that I just gave you a look at. And that was released on the 24th, okay? On the 24th of September. And so it continues a problem that Oakland Athletics President Dave Cavall has consistently communicated to me, where they don't have a sources and uses document. All right? They don't have a sources and uses document. Okay? And so where's the money coming from? Where's it going to go? Documents that the city of Oakland has produced to discuss sources and uses in the case of the proposed stadium for the Raiders by the Lot Group. Remember that? Sources and uses. So here we have the mayor once again coming on and not explaining concretely why a public document has not been released, and saying that, well, they have drafts. Okay, so what? They have tried to keep quiet that they plan to use tax increment financing money for the stadium for a set of reasons that have to do with fear, coupled with the fact that by the mayor's own admission to me on an earlier press conference that they don't understand redevelopment tax increment financing. And then the mayor tried to shift and say, well, okay, it's a different world, Zennie, because we don't have redevelopment anymore. Well, you do. You're using tax increment financing, and you're proposing to draw a zone to collect that money to pay for improvements. Ostensibly, the way it's done is by a giant upfront bond issue. You take, let's say you have 1.6 million, you divide that by 2 to represent your debt coverage ratio. You have 800 million right there. Okay, that's the most you can bond against that. That's your ceiling. Okay, over a 45-year period, assuming, and the revenue that's collected assumes a rate of growth of just 4%. The county of Alameda is allowed to increase artificially the assessed value for the area for the zone by 2%. So that means you only have to grow by an additional 2%. Pretty cool, huh? Hey, by the way, in New York, you can do it. They can adjust it by 6%, but that's another story for another time. My point is the average rate of growth of assessed value in the area of Jack London Square and Howard Terminal is just north of 6%. It's been that way for a long time, folks. A long time. So within that, you can mathematically structure a bond issue that will pay for itself. If you have consultants that don't know how to do that, they have no business being involved in this project, and yet the city has had them involved because the city itself, unlike the past, didn't have the intellectual horsepower to do it on its own, to understand what was being done. And on top of all that, this is more heavily politicized than it has ever been, ever. The mayor, Libby, gets out, I've said it before and I'll say it again, and discusses it has to be the spokesperson for this project, but she will not be the spokesperson when people get killed in Oakland. Yeah, sometimes she appears with a chief, but it's always the chief. Our black police chief being the face to, express sorrow when people are killed in criminal activity. Every other city, Atlanta, New York, the mayor gets out and makes that. But once again, Libby has decided that she is going to be the face of sports failure because that's what's going on. She did it with the Raiders, and now she didn't have a debrief, and now she's doing the same thing with the A's and trying to put a smiley face on it. Rob Manfred was being kind. Rob Manfred was being kind because I don't care at this point. Where we are is this. Even if the county of Alameda goes through these approvals, okay? All right? Even if the county of Alameda goes through these approvals and we get to a DDA this year, we still don't have the financing buttoned up. In other words, we don't have a finance organization. We don't have an agreed upon, well, we do have an agreed upon way to do the tax increment, it seems. But even then, the city hasn't said, okay, we're going to do that. They have not created a fiscal organization that will be responsible. There's no LLC, there's no corporation, there's no agency that the city has designated, which is the first thing the city should have done. You have to produce the calculations for that, make sure that they stand a stress test in terms of the ability to actually pay for themselves, which I've already done in my case, all right? And then you establish a bond underwriter and your projected dollar flows and where they're going to go. That's going to take them, conservatively speaking, at the rate that they're going, about another 7 months. They really need to fast track it to make it 2. If the city can get that buttoned up by the end of the year, which I completely doubt, that entirely changes. So they have, in other words, if they have the financing buttoned up, that changes this project. But they don't. The city has spent a lot of time arguing over maps and EIRs. In other words, design at things that people understand. Anyone on the street can render an opinion about that. This is about, you get the money out of the way first. This is not a hard thing to do. Other cities do it. Atlanta's playing in Truist Park. The Braves work with municipalities over in Cobb County to get that done really quick. They just hosted 40,000 for the Major League Baseball playoff series. Oakland has not proven that it has the will and the initiative to complete big projects outside the Port of Oakland. And this one is yet another example of how Oakland insists on not doing anything and leaving the heavy lifting in terms of doing something to other cities. Do you realize that San Leandro has already a plan where it's going to use part of its general fund money to fix its seawall problem right next to East Oakland? What do we have? Nothing. All right? Nothing. So let me take your comments before we get too far down the pipe here, okay? And all right, Thomas says the city government is terrible. Levy Schaff is one of the worst mayors of the cities besides Ron Dellums. Not just sports teams. Look at the streets. He says Rebecca Kaplan is going to be worse. Rebecca's not running for mayor. Wow, so they're gone. As far as you might as well practically consider them gone because, again, what Major League Baseball commissioner said, and he left some wiggle room, but he's telling the truth, and what he said hasn't changed over the past 3 or 4 months. In fact, it's the simple fact that it hasn't changed, and he continues to trot the song of relocation means that we are at a point. He did not say what the mayor said. He didn't say, you know what, when Oakland gets its approvals done, we'll be able to get this out of the way. He didn't say that. He did not say that. We have design review, another design review. Do you realize we have another design review hearing coming up? This is going to extend into next year. So what Major League Baseball is doing is they're crystal balling and looking out forward. And then what they're seeing is an eventual 2027 stadium completion, which they would prefer to see moved up because they have a situation where the A's lease runs out in 2024. Now, all this doesn't mean that, the A's are going to stop playing in Oakland. But given the prices that they set, they certainly seem like they're setting that kind of path, don't they? Well, hey, we know that we're out of here, but if you're going to come to our games at the Coliseum, you have to play a pretty penny in the future. That if for season ticket holders, that's the message that the A's are sending. They're trying to recover their losses from the pandemic in that way rather than any other kind of way. And they're not getting any help from the city. The city could float AB 464 for business in Oakland, including the Athletics, and say, hey, you know what? We'll help you out here just to help you stay in Oakland financially, right? Has the city even thought about doing that? No. It would be public money to sports as opposed to public money to help businesses, when in point of fact, we can raise billions to help all kinds of businesses, particularly small businesses like yours in Oakland, right now. What has the city done? Nothing. Instead, in the places that need the help the most, you have the 2 new council members, District 7 Councilmember Treva Reed and District 6 Councilmember Lauren Taylor. Lauren in particular yelling he's going to run for mayor. He's barely done anything in his own District 6. And the word is that the reason why he's running for mayor is because he doesn't think he can get reelected in his own district. In other words, the idea is, hey, you know what? There's no one challenging him right now, but eventually there will be, and he'll lose. So the growing joke is, hey, he can't get us to vote for him there, so he's got to go out and basically get a more conservative Caucasian vote. Why else to explain why Lauren would initially take up the task of actually shortening the emergency eviction moratorium? All right, that's true. Okay. But he's running for mayor and he's got nothing to show for a run. And then Treva was talking about running, and so is Shang Tao, who was at District 4. We have 3 council members. We get a 4th and a 5th. They're all talking about running for mayor on the backs of really having not done anything to improve Oakland in the middle of the pandemic. You should run for re-election, because they're all running for re-election, as it shows, and just leave it at that. But this has become a gigantic ego play. And that's the major problem. You don't have any private sector representatives of the sports industry who are in Oakland involved in this project. I'm not officially involved in it. They chased Scott McKibben out of town. Henry Gardner's over at the JPA, but he's not involved in it. No one who represents the private sector on the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority is involved in it. I can go on and on and on. And we have a bevy of, in particular, Black professionals in the Bay Area who would love to be involved in a task force who haven't even been called. A standard normal procedure for a mayor is to form a task force. This mayor says, oh, I have my task force, it's my staff. Why? Because you can't stand criticism? And who's paying for that for Howard Terminal? The Athletics. Okay? Oh, and then you want to hear the coup de grace, folks? In 2 years, it is estimated that we will have a $500 million budget deficit in Oakland. That will be the mayor's legacy. $500 million. $3.8 billion budget, $500 million deficit. Okay? And we haven't hired people, so guess what? We're going to have to terminate more people to close that unless we can do it through tax increment financing, like we used to do with redevelopment. Okay? We can collect that money and help close that hole. These are the dire straits that we're in as a city. All right? These are the dire straits. And he says, do you think the A's are going to stop? No, the A's are not going to stop negotiations. They're going to continue on the path that they're on. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The picture will change, and everyone will really get it the minute the Athletics release their photographs of architectural renderings, for Las Vegas. When that happens, then the handwriting will be clearly on the wall for everyone to see, because the excitement will shift to Las Vegas. Or I also happen to think that Portland's back on the table, because as much as, and Rob is right, Portland has gotten far less publicity than Las Vegas, but Portland has a plan for a baseball stadium ready to go. The question is, which is a better value for Major League Baseball, Portland or Las Vegas? I would argue Las Vegas for reasons of gambling access. But the minute, and the A's are working on this, an architectural rendering comes out for Las Vegas, that will be your major game changer. Watch. And there won't be any preview to it. It'll just, boom, come out. And then people will see, because people like that, like my buddy Phil Tagami would always say, hey, people love the pretty pictures. Right now, Las Vegas doesn't have any pretty pictures. We have pretty pictures for Oakland and Howard Terminal, but when Las Vegas starts getting pretty pictures going, that's when the momentum will shift. And it'll be really hard for Oakland to get it back. It's not that this isn't fixable, but frankly speaking, given the way that this city behaves and that it's so in love with its own little battles that it has with each, these folks are in love with the battles they have with each other and not willing to look beyond that and build the city. I can't see it. The main problem is that we don't build the stadium. So the main question is, hey, look, why don't we just build the thing with or without the Athletics? And start asking the question now, okay, if the A situation in the process isn't going to work for us, what's the alternative? Do we build a convention center down there at Howard Terminal? Why not? We don't have a large-scale convention center. We don't have a convention center worth thinking about. The Oakland Auditorium is being refurbished, but even then, it's just, not just, but it's 10,000 seats. But its ballroom size is not on a par with Moscone Center. Why not have a large convention center and hotel and begin to build the meetings, incentives, convention, entertainment industry yet again? We're way behind on that. And I would think that we would be tired of having our lunch eaten by Las Vegas. People from San Francisco are coming over with the dollars to make it work. Well, for now. So it's a situation where we've really screwed this up. Thomas says, Libby's going to go down as a mayor that lost 3 sports teams. She'll get blamed for the Warriors. She was District 4 council member, sad state of affairs in the city of Oakland, homelessness, crime, and dirty streets. And T. Chaz says, what is disaster? Yep, that's the situation. They should have given you a job. Well, it's not a matter of giving me a job. It's a matter of putting me in charge, okay? And, or yeah, just because it's a matter of even beyond me. Okay. And someone says, we like the attention. Of course I like the attention. I'm in the media business. What a stupid thing to say. But we need a task force of people who know how. That's what I did for the Super Bowl. We don't have that now. It's like Libby doesn't want to listen to anybody outside the city whose purse string she doesn't control. Bad thing. That's what it looks like. Okay. He says, this really gets my blood boiling. It's so frustrating. Oakland, such a beautiful city council, and the mayor missing in action. Oh my God, if the A's want to leave, just in the negotiations. Life doesn't work that way. Okay. Sorry, it just doesn't. Because look, there's always an 11th hour. What I'm communicating to you is I do not have the faith in this city to be the organization that creates that 11th hour scenario. I don't. I'd love to be proven wrong, but I've been around long enough. You hope. I'm done hoping. Okay? There's an old saying, once bitten, twice shy. I was bitten during the Raiders situation. I saw the Warriors situation. That's twice. I'm not going to, turn around and say, oh, the third time we'll get it together. At some point, you just have to say, you know what? I just don't believe that you can get it done. And that's what I've been saying. I don't. And again, the city has done nothing to assuage my fears. Zero, zilch, nothing at all. They don't even care to sell to me about it. Say, hey, here's what we're doing. Or, hey, you put together the task force, which I can still do. But if I put together a task force without the mayor saying, well, listen, I don't know about that. Maybe I should just do it anyway. Yeah. So Thomas says they need to get rid of, we make ranked choice voting. And well, I don't know that that's going to solve it. Okay. It's the problem isn't getting rid of it. The problem is it's very simple. You involve private sector people and you give them some modicum of control and have them report back to council and let the council make the final decision. But the council needs to stop putting its face out there. You have all of these people in different directions. They're concerned about crime, homelessness, and they should be, healthcare, all these places, all right? They're not experts at any of these one things, yet they keep wanting to be the spokesperson. Stop doing that. With sports, let their private sector people out there put together the task force and give the task force work that counts. Okay? We've got Al says, I suspect Oakland is stalling just long enough for the A's to pack their bags, is what he's saying. Libby knows exactly what she's doing. Her inaction proves just that. But I disagree that the mayor knows what she's doing because, okay, everybody knows what she's doing. Yeah, she does know what she's doing. My argument is that what she's doing isn't good for the city. And it's not going to get us what we want. It might get her what she wants in terms of currying favor with John Fisher, but it's not getting what we need as a city. So it might benefit her, but let's say that what you're saying is the case. That means it's being done at our expense, collectively, okay? The city's tired of footing the bill for these teams. What do you mean? It's not a matter of footing the bill for the teams. I mean, if you say the city is tired of footing the bill for the teams, where? We didn't foot the bill for the Warriors. The Warriors took off. We didn't give them a chance because we did nothing. My point is, again, you can't say the city is tired of footing the bill for something because we did so in the case of the Warriors. That worked, but we didn't keep it up. Let me explain something to you. This is called urban planning. You don't think of it in terms of footing the bill for the teams. You think of it in terms of spending money to have a large-scale event center and you get someone to fill it. The revenue stream that comes out of it, you can pledge to that organization because, they're performing, within it, but you own it. That's the situation with Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, Texas, where the city owns it and the county. All right. But the Cowboys enjoy the revenue stream. It's not a hard do, folks. It just isn't. And then you engineer these deals so that you have enough ancillary business around so that Oakland businesses can take up space, work virtually, and enjoy the revenue that comes from having these folks packed together to see an event. Doesn't matter. And not only that, let me explain something to you. And I was trying to explain it to the mayor. There are 220 sports events available to bid on every year, all right, according to the National Association of Sports Commissions, and of which I started Oakland's only sports commission and successfully got that sports commission on as a member of the National Association of Sports Commissions. I did that in 1999. Has anyone done that before? Had anyone done that before? No. Had anyone done that since? No. There was one now former head of the Visit Oakland Convention and Visitors Bureau that talked about doing it. I said I was happy to help her. She didn't take me up on it. She thought, oh, I got this, Zennie, and she did absolutely nothing and then took off for Washington, D.C. because it was all about her. She didn't care about Oakland at all. She cared nothing about Oakland. It was all about her. And I pointed out she didn't like it. I don't care. Care about my city. Knock this stuff off. This city spends a lot of time cultivating people who basically, they only care about how much money they're going to make and their lifestyle and going to Hawaii and all that's great. But you know what? It should be a matter of incentive. You get to do those things after you've been able to show, you can demonstrably show you can improve the city. It's called a performance record, you know, especially for economic development. We don't do that. Oh, no. Oh, no. Let me get to more of your comments. I can see the A is going to Portland, he says, because the Major League Baseball probably wants massive expansion fee from Las Vegas. No, that's not the case. Eric says, Zennie, why is the commissioner putting this out there? Do you know if MLB is pushing Tampa the same way they're pushing Oakland? Well, he said by his comments that Tampa is playable, but the Coliseum's problems are legion. And if you say why he's doing this, is because he said it. I mean, I don't, Rob is not, he's not saying something that people haven't known for a long time. The sad part about all of this is that Oakland doesn't seem to get it and want to build anything. And then it has to be, well, we spend all this money about sports teams. It's about building something. And again, let me get back to my point. You don't build an edifice for a team. You build the edifice for planning purposes. You plan it. Okay? We don't plan. We refurbished the Coliseum to get the Raiders back. But did we do it in a way that the Coliseum was made to be state of the art? No. I pointed that out to the Oakland City Council in 1997. And then Oakland Councilmember Nate Miley had a fit. We already spent $200 million to bring the Raiders back. Yes, yeah. But we didn't do it in a way where we could turn around and say, well, this stadium is going to be relevant in terms of industrial change for the next 20 years. No. In fact, it became obsolete almost the moment the Raiders started playing in it. After the refurbishment, the A's started balking and everything else. And we had a 146 item punch list, the majority of which those punch list items have still not been completed, folks. And that goes all the way back to 1995. Do you hear what I am telling you? What year is this? Go figure, okay? This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. And we allow this incompetence to go on and on and on, and we think it's okay. And it's gotten to a point where it's reflected in how the city looks. The people that are being created who are homeless in terms of their condition, the fact that people are exiting it. But then someone says, well, they're coming over from San Francisco. Okay, it doesn't mean they're going to stick for long. We're not out of this situation, this economic situation the pandemic has created. And in the Oakland parlance, and we haven't done enough of the right planning and implementation on the government arm to say that we're out of it, or that we can see a way forward clearly in a timely fashion. It hasn't happened, all right? How does the mayor sleep at night? Can she see the train wreck of her legacy? I don't think Libby sleeps. I just honestly don't think that Libby believes that her calculus is the right one, and she doesn't want somebody else out there saying that unless they're being PR for her, okay? As opposed to when she first became mayor, she said, "Hey, look, how do I deal with the Raiders?" Asking me, for example, how do I work with Mark Davis? How do I do X, Y, and Z? She asked. And then in 2015, it became more like she thought she had this, but she didn't. I told her in 2015 the Raiders were working behind her back. She didn't believe me at the time. She found out the hard way that was what I was saying was true. But again, I'm not the only person out there that should be involved. You have people like Andy Dolich who would happy to help, I think. Andy would take a lot of coaxing at this point. Yeah, Dan Rasher, USF Economics, long time, a business partner of mine for several years. You have other people out there we would find who I don't know, but I've heard about who'd be excellent to have on it. And you have people that are athletic directors. I haven't seen Stephanie Shreve in a long time. She's athletic director over at the San Francisco State. There's a lot of talented sports and sports marketing minds out there that'll be happy to lend their expertise and their advocacy for what we put together to draw companies in to what we decide to build. But we have to decide we're going to build it, and that means getting our financing act together right now. Forget these drafts that you say you have that are not for public view. Get these things ready that should be ready like right now. In fact, by the 26th, that should be something that's part of the presentation to the county right there. They don't understand. I'm talking about the city and the consultants that we need to build $2 billion of development. That's the baseball stadium plus. So that counts as your base year. And then from that grows your $1.6 billion tax increment revenue source. Think about it, folks. That's just $2 billion to start. Caval says we're going to put eventually $12 billion there, even though they don't have the financing for it, and they need a development partner, which the city of Oakland has done nothing to help them get. Nothing. How many times have I said this? Okay. Giants were saved twice at the 11th hour, but I agree with you. Oakland doesn't have the people it desires. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it can't happen. I just don't have any faith. I have zero faith. Jaketown. Or is it Joketown? Sorry, but it's straight up clown show at this point. It's sad. And I'm not going to diminish that because, it's time for tough talk. It just is. Eric Sterling says, any good example was when you pushed her on why you're waiting for the county. The city can do this planning without the county. That's why I think the county is going to vote against the project. Mountain Davis fiasco. Oakland is still building Jerry Brown's plan. See how that's turning out. Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. I see little or nothing to disagree with that. So I put out what I'm putting out. I'm going to shift gears and talk about John Gruden a little briefly, and then work on getting ready for tomorrow. Eric says Oakland needs a pro-business mayor, enough said, period. Now, arguably, Libby is pro-business, but what we needed is a mayor that understands how to activate talented people to build a process and implement that process and then get out of the way. We need a council that does that same thing. Enough of these photo ops and social media and all this make people think that they're doing something when in point of fact you've got record number of people on the street and people afraid to go out and walk around because they think they're going to be robbed or held or they're going to be carjacked or they're going to have their windows smashed in their car. And you have other people in Oakland saying, well, you have to get used to it. What? It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Yeah. All right, folks. Subscribe to Zennie62, bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com, and I'll be back tomorrow with more on this. That ends this broadcast. Oh, by the way, before I go, if you have any comments or if you want to send a blog post for posting on your on Oakland News Now, just send it to Zennie at Zennie62media.net right here. Okay. There you go. Count Ciclo says, what is the connection to all the teams leaving Oakland? You say, what's the connection? Your question is wrong. We're down to one pro sports team. And if you say what is the connection, I told you that. I'll repeat it. We don't plan. We don't build edifices to keep and draw teams. We don't build, let me rephrase that. We don't build edifices to draw a team regardless. In other words, we don't say, okay, we don't have a sports team. We need this facility. This large scale event center can hold 60,000 for a concert or for emergency services during a disaster. We don't think in those terms, or 220 sports events. We only think like Oakland District 3 Councilmember Carol Fife does. Well, it's a baseball stadium and that's it. No, it just happens to be designed primarily for baseball stadium. But look at Giants Oracle Park and the number of events it's hosted. I mean, folks, this is not new, all right? You have tractor pulls in there. You can have business mixers in there on a gigantic scale. It is a room. It is a gigantic room, folks. And today, it is a gigantic television studio within which to hold productions that attract the eyeballs of the world. That's how you have to think of it. But to say it's just a baseball stadium, and then tell us how you feel about baseball? No, okay? The problem is that we don't know how to build large-scale event centers. That is squarely the problem. We used to, but it's been a long time. One could argue we don't even know how to maintain the ones that we have. All right, folks. See ya.